And Brittany worked with Gail over the 4th. And Dan worked with, thank you, Pat, down to our south in the 2nd. And so we're on track. We'll talk more about state convention in a little bit, but we do still have three CDs where we're trying to do this.
And that's, well, different dates, yes.
Right.
Excuse me.
I have a page. Oh, look at that. That's the page right there.
Yep, I'm looking at it.
Yep. So now, let's see. Vic, are you in the 7th? Yes.
Yeah.
You are, right. So the 6th, the 7th, and the 3rd, duh. So I heard from people who couldn't make it today to this meeting, but one of those was Jay Jackson, who said he can go to both the 3rd district convention.
Okay.
He's in Rapids, and so that's his CD, but he can also go to Marshfield.
For the 7th?
Right. Now,
I'm gonna be in
can you can make it on,
Okay.
my notes say April 27th.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And Katie and Ashley cannot go?
Katie cannot.
Okay.
Katie mentioned a name that I'd have to dig up in my emails.
Sure.
So what I think I'll do is I'll do an email thread
Sure.
connecting you, Jay,
It'd be a
and
big force.
this other person.
Lock arms.
Yep. So that's a lot of strength there.
I'm handling the registration.
Oh, thanks.
Excellent. Thanks.
So
Well, don't get too bogged down at the registration
that's the
table.
beginning, basically.
Once
Once 10 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah.
And
Then
then
it'll be,
you're free to
okay.
go in. So that's 7. 6 is next, but we're just trusting assembly candidate. And by the way, UWSP College of Natural Resources
Nice.
grad, Rebecca Clark, over in Sheboygan.
Yep.
On
April 7th.
April 7th.
It's coming
that's
up, yeah.
So that's the next one. Right. Then the 7th in Marshfield, thank you again. And then the 3rd
It says lacrosse.
in La Crosse on May 4th.
Okay.
Which Jay can go to.
Okay.
Are you able to?
I have it on my calendar. I'm tentative
All right.
for now. It's on my calendar,
Right.
so.
So are the resolutions and the other CDs, they were passed as is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, we're doing great.
For the record, ours
I
was too.
was going to say maybe provide
And
context.
now I'll catch you up with what this is.
Sure.
'Cause this is the big push that we have right now. So we have 2 strategic goals. One is to help every Democratic candidate, who's on a ballot run on environmental issues. That's one strategic goal. Our other strategic goal is to get sort of the central organization of the state party to take environmental issues on board. That second strategic goal is informed by how things have not gone well. Things have gone well in the building of this caucus. Things have not gone great in connecting our effort to the office in Madison. So those are our two strategic goals.
Well, and perhaps broadly explain that, there are many other resolutions that are probably going to show up, like in support of the Green New Deal, or, just support climate change, and those types of things. Our environmental caucus is broadly focused on everything from groundwater to preserving natural resources for hunting and fishing, to climate change, to renewable energy, to all of those things. So we're trying to be a bigger umbrella than the narrow focus of just one specific issue.
And we're acknowledging that, in different areas, different issues will be stronger, just the same way that they are in different parts of the country, likewise in different parts of the state. Kind of implied in that is kind of taking cues from the people who are running themselves. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a respect for, even maybe deference to candidates.
For whatever
right.
the issue is, whether you're a candidate in northern Wisconsin and it's mining, or a candidate in Central Sands and it's groundwater. So.
And over by the lake, in many places it's actually air quality.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
That's a non-attainment zone.
This is Central Sands here.
That's where we are. Yeah. Where, and we can come to this. I don't know how much time we'll spend on it, but 3 of our neighboring counties have very much been struggling with groundwater issues and private wells.
Yes, Wood County, Adams County, Juneau County. There's a lot going on there. In fact, it looks like quite potentially almost like a class, up to 100 people in a lawsuit against Wysocki Farms.
Cool.
So that's huge. Yeah.
So all of this builds to the state convention at the beginning of June, and June 1, 2, 3, I think.
It's a Saturday, Sunday.
2, 3.
It's a Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah,
First and second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I can't make it this year. So.
I'm definitely going. So I have the reverse of last year.
Yep.
I'm going to
be
state.
there.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Then sounds like we'll have.
And the next agenda item, as soon as we're kind of gotten what we need to do on this with the resolution, it is state convention. Yes.
Quick question on the district conventions. I've been through one, so
Right.
but in terms of the resolution on that situation, does somebody introduce it formally, or is it, since it's been passed by the county, then it goes up there, and I'm just the process?
Well, yeah.
It's a good question. Is there anything automatic about things coming from counties?
Yeah.
How do we?
So once a county party approves a resolution, it should automatically be set up to their CD by the county party, by their chair.
Sure.
And, the CD is then functionally required to take it up, to put it on the floor.
Okay.
Once it goes onto the floor, people can make motions to amend it. There can be debate on it, et cetera, just like anything else. There wasn't any real attempt to amend it in second CD. I don't know about the other, what's happening there, but it's pretty clean. I wrote it without any, real controversial stuff in it. So
It passed pretty quickly in our county meeting.
yeah, it should be a pretty straightforward thing. What tends to happen with resolutions of this kind is that, and we saw this at 2CD, unfortunately we were able to find a way around it, because it's not a direct issue, it's a pet issue of a group.
Sure.
It tends to get shoved aside by other things. And so if there's more, each CD is allowed to send 10 resolutions max to the state convention. So if there's more than 10 resolutions on the floor, there's always a little bit of shepherding that has to go on to make certain.
And how does that happen, Dan? Are people allowed to come to a podium and speak on behalf of a resolution, or is it debated between How is that debated?
Every congressional is probably going to handle it a little
Okay.
differently. The way that I think that it would normally go is that people are going to finish making amendments, proposing amendments, motions, debate,
Okay.
whatever. They will then throw out a certain number of them. There's going to be some that just don't pass because they're too controversial or too far out there. People don't like the wording. And then if there's still more than 10 after that point, there'll be just sort of a general vote, and the top 10 vote getters. I mean, we did it by
Okay.
ranked choice ballot in second CD,
Oh, I see.
which is probably the best way to do it when you've got more than 10 things to mess
Sure.
with. But everybody's going to have their own deal. And there's no set way in the state party constitution that determines how a CD is supposed to handle this. So it's just going to be up to them.
Okay.
But that is the key rule for our purposes, right? That for any resolution to end up in the state party platform, it has to pass three hurdles. It has to initiate from a county committee, has to be among the 10 at congressional district convention, and then what's the threshold at convention?
At state, it's just a majority,
Okay.
and the gross majority of resolutions that come up at state are rubber stamped.
Okay.
The way that it'll get handled at state, there'll be 60 resolutions, and there'll be a general question from the chair. Does anyone want to separate one or more of these resolutions out?
Okay.
Certain number will go out for debate. The rest will then just go straight up and down. Do we approve them?
Sure.
I strongly suspect that we will be in that big group, and we'll just get the rubber stamp from the state and go through.
So the next question is what happens then? And so kind of, I'm very active in WCA, Wisconsin Counties Association, both as staff for my daytime job and of course as county board supervisor. And when we get things and push things up from the steering committees, they end up going to the executive committee as it relates to platform. Then that gives the staff of WCA their marching orders as they march across the street. Is that what happens here? That staff actually go over and talk with legislators, their advocacy staff, and talk about, well, these are our priorities as approved in the convention, or do they get put on a shelf and then forgotten about?
For the last many years, they have been put on the shelf and forgotten about.
Okay.
Which is something that we are desperately trying to change.
That would be good.
Yeah, it didn't used to be this way.
Okay.
But the elected powers that be in the state decided that they didn't like as much shoving from the party as they were getting
Okay.
on issues. So there were about, my understanding from the people who were there at the time, one of the guys in 2CD used to be the chair of the state platform resolutions committee, so he went through this thing. They changed the rules to not only make it extraordinarily difficult for resolutions to get put forward and pass, but also to ensure that there wasn't any formal mechanism for the party to be able to enforce them. So,
Okay.
technically, the last 4 years of resolutions are a part of the party platform, even though they're not specifically drafted into the platform and published in the Blue Book. Does anybody then, try to hold people's feet to the fire about them? Absolutely not.
Okay.
And I had one last year that I went out and tried to push myself after it passed, and it was just thank you for coming and speaking with us, and now we'll forget who you are,
Yeah.
type of thing.
Where did you take it to?
I took it to Mark Pocan. It was a national level thing. Took it to Tammy Baldwin's people. It was about nuclear weapons testing, and
I would suggest the third alternative right?
Well, that's- yeah.
So I'm not sure what degree of discipline one would expect because, this isn't an advocacy organization like League of Conservation Voters that has lobbyists, right? I mean, it's a party organization that's trying
Right.
to build and turn people out in elections, and all that. So what I mean when I say I can imagine a third alternative is, so if one end of the spectrum is, is discipline and embracing and really taking on board, and the other is ignoring,
Mm-hmm.
in between, and there's some range to this, is, that it's an expression of the body of sentiment, right? I mean, it is a political
It
statement
is
from
a
within the party,
Right.
and that signal is, kind of taken and responded to whatever extent. And our job is to help, make it a living thing.
Well,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
kind of where I was going, because what is the parameters, the boundaries, I don't like boundaries, but what are the boundaries of the caucus to say, well, the party isn't going to walk across the street and say, here, legislator X, these are the resolutions that are coming out of the state convention. We hope that you embrace them. How can we help you? Instead, what are our parameters from taking on some of that and talking directly with legislators?
Oh, absolutely. I think that, the minute the state convention's over,
Mhm.
there should be letters going out to people saying, okay, here you go. This isn't just us. This is what the party has said.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to see environmental issues on your tickets, on your platforms, on your messaging campaigns. Because not only do we think that those are important issues, but because we think that's what makes Democrats win. And if we start dropping
Right.
letters into every single candidate's box,
And can I say, I think that our category is not legislator, our category is candidate.
Candidate, but
Right.
we also, yes, but that can also be a legislator.
They
Yeah,
can,
right.
We're most worried about getting people in who aren't in, right?
Right. But I'm just trying to understand
Yep.
the process and how we can elevate the prominence of environmental
Absolutely.
issues, not only with candidates, but to help folks that work down in that square.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, I'm just being aware of.
Right.
yeah.
And I think this also relates to item 3. That item 3 being introduction and listening tour, and that idea of taking all of the human resources that we have developed and doing more connecting with people we haven't connected with. yet.
Right.
I think it has everything to do with that. Let me ask
Excuse me.
whether we think we have talked about everything we need to about the resolution. The item 2 still is just looking toward the convention and everything we
Right.
need to be
Yeah.
thinking
No,
about,
it
of
was
which
a
this is
good
one.
question. The process is
Yeah.
is a good.
Just so when I'm there, I know
Yeah,
what I have to
absolutely.
do.
Will that be in Madison, the convention?
The convention actually will be in Milwaukee.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Next year's, the 2020 National Convention will be in Milwaukee.
Right.
But the 2019 State Convention will also be in Milwaukee. Last year it was in Oshkosh. the year before
Where
it
are
was
these,
in
where does this group typically meet?
early June.
No,
And-
where does this
Chicago, I
group
mean,
typically?
Hiawatha,
this
back
group
and
meets here.
forth.
This group?
The
So
state
if you take
Eco
Hiawatha
Caucus,
out, because I take it
state
frequently to
Democrat.
get down to EPH Region
meets
5,
here for the whole state.
out of Milwaukee and
Wow.
Mitchell,
Right.
right down.
This is a
Chicago
county party that punches above its weight in multiple ways. You're sitting in a building which we own and not rent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And one of the reasons that we're meeting here, I mean, the idea came out of here, basically, standing right over there at the holiday party. Someone named Jerry Ugland said to me that there ought to be a thing like this, and that was holiday of 2016.
2016 after the awful Novembers of 2016.
So if I could provide lodging for people who are coming in from out of town,
Well, we haven't had
You
people
guys-
traveling far enough to need to spend the night so far.
So, yeah.
And we haven't yet had a meeting, you know, we maybe would have a couple more than this. And how many do we, if I may ask, how many are on the YouTube channel right now?
Right now, 4.
Oh,
Which
good.
is almost exact, it's usually 5. and everybody stays anonymous, which is their right. And Brittany's still on the phone with us. I'm going to ask you if you're keeping up and have any questions.
I'm good. Yep, thanks, guys.
Okay. And nobody else is there, eh?
Hey, are you from Canada?
Canada? Otherwise, we'll continue with our project, as they say out there. Sorry. All right. On to item 2. And I know one sub-item under item 2 is elections. Shall I dive into that? Does anybody else have anything state convention related? Okay. I have the advantage of having just looked at our Constitution.
I have not for a while.
Which says officers are elected in odd years and the board in even years, with the exception that in order to have some stagger to the terms of the board, that one board seat was designated to what? Have a 1-year term?
Yeah, well, so one board seat is elected with the officers.
Okay.
Well, that will always be
Yes.
true.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. I needed my secretary treasurer because I didn't get that. Okay. Lacking any other way of deciding, it was said that the lowest vote getter of the board candidates, that seat would be the seat
Okay.
in
I
the odd
remember.
year. That happens to be Jay Jackson.
Oh, okay. I can remember who it was.
The additional wrinkle is we're aware of one resignation.
Oh, who was that?
It's Katie.
Oh, yeah.
And because we don't know who's on there, we won't say why for the moment.
No, I
Right.
understand.
do you have open seats?
No, it's been full, but we are about to have an opening, and that's what we're talking about right
Right.
now. Is how are we going to handle that?
So at the state convention, there'll be one board seat.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
we are about to
Yeah.
discuss that issue right now.
One board seat and not all of the officers?
All of the
No, all of the officers
Oh.
and how many board seats is the question that we're talking about right now.
How many board seats are there total?
No. Oh, how many?
Decide.
Yeah, no. The answer is
There are between 4 and 6.
Okay.
We can have a minimum
We
of
have
4,
6.
maximum of 6, plus 3.
and we do have 6.
Yeah, we have 6 right now, and then 3 officers.
So we'll have the 3 officers and Jay slot
Mhm.
And ...
And-
question mark?
and
Yeah.
question mark a possible vacant seat.
The seat will be vacant.
Mhm.
What are we going to do about that?
How do we fill with vacancies?
So,
I think
Don't
we
we
should
throw it out on the floor?
Tell us our options,
Yes.
please,
Okay.
Secretary Treasurer.
Yeah.
He's our factotum sort of,
Okay.
Whatever.
For process.
yes.
well, I'm the lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a vacancy that arises during a person's a board member's term is filled by the board.
Okay.
So we can appoint anyone, or because we have more than the minimum required, we can simply choose to leave that seat open.
Okay.
It is not an option for us to have a mid.
Not for that seat, there's no election at that seat.
Okay.
Aha.
So we would request, if we
That
wanted
is
to fill the
interesting.
seat, we would issue a request for interested parties to submit their names and why they're interested. The board would evaluate those and make a decision. Could a process go like that, Dan, then?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's no set process for the board to fill that, to appoint somebody.
Yeah.
They can simply fill that vacancy at their
Okay.
leisure and whatever process they
Yeah.
want.
It seems like a
Quorum right
reasonable.
now?
This month we happen not to. So the fact is, 1, 2, 3. Well, 3. Right? We're way short.
Yeah.
So this is just a discussion.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is not a board. This is not a board meeting.
Because
So
don't
the,
have
the,
quorum,
the
yeah.
honest truth is that while we elected a board at last year's state convention, it was only, I would say, 2 months ago. It's March. Yes, it was only in January, which is obviously about 6 months later, that we started meeting as a board. We would have board members come to some of these meetings, but in January and February, we actually had 100% of the board.
Right.
But we happen not today
Yeah.
to have.
Yeah. One of our vice chair is in Peru.
That's true.
And it's 2 days before,
It's-
3 days before an
it's-
election,
Yeah.
where folks are canvassing.
Right,
yeah.
right.
So
And the
you
only reason-
rotate meeting sites?
We have not yet. So we have discussed this, and we discussed the idea of a larger membership meeting that is not at state convention. Instead, we are doing the two things that we're here talking about today, one of which we already talked about, which is the platform resolution.
That's okay.
Hi, Pat. Thanks for
Sorry
joining
to
us.
interrupt. So I did get the right phone number.
Yes.
I was watching you on YouTube, and there are 4 other people. I just heard one of you say, well, there are 3 of us here. No,
So-
thank you. None of the people watching you on YouTube.
Four,
That's what I called it.
yeah, 4 of 9 is still not a quorum, but we are glad you're here.
Yes.
No, I mean, there are people watching besides you who are sitting there. But there were 4 watching, or does that mean you guys too?
Nope, there are 4 others watching, but we can't tell who they are unless they actually sign in and leave a comment for us.
I see. Well, guys, I'm up in Minneapolis visiting my daughter, visiting the Costco parking lot. So, but the main thing I wanted to let you know is that I'm going to go ahead and be trying to get more people third CV convention in La Crosse to take our resolution there.
So you're gonna come over to Third CD.
I could go myself, but of course I don't live there anymore.
Oh, you're encouraging friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like folks to the Crawford Stewardship Project, but
Okay.
some contacts of the Dems I know from Hunt and Juneau and Sauk County.
That's good to know. Thank you very much. So I'm going to do 2 email threads for the 3rd and for the 7th. I will put you, Pat, on the one for the 3rd. And that can be a prompt for you to pull, to reply all and add anyone who you're,
That sounds,
in good hopes of pull. Okay, great. You understand what I'm saying? All right.
that sounds good. Okay, I'll let you get back to business. I don't know how long I'm going to get a phone.
It's just a conversation.
but I'll just listen in, okay?
No, yeah, thank you. I'm glad. It's always this mystery who's on the YouTube channel, because we've never had more than like one of the 5 people on there actually pipe up in the comments box. And is still the comment box still empty?
Yeah, nope, just Bruce Beck from Dane County is on.
Okay.
And since he's on, I just wanted to say thank you to him for bringing a climate change resolution at second CD that passed and is going up to
Congratulations.
state convention as well on carbon tax. So
Oh, okay.
Congratulations.
Do you table events, certain events?
We
Not yet.
we could / maybe should. So we have a list of over 150 people, but in terms of active numbers of people, it's about a tenth of that. You know, it's about a dozen-ish people who are really engaged in doing things.
So you
And-
don't table the energy fair here?
We haven't. We have. Some among us go, for sure.
Or maybe share a table with whoever's there?
I mean, more to the point, what's been raised is tabling hunting and fishing events.
Or the state convention?
Well, our DPW state convention, we're there in force.
With a table?
Well, we mostly kind of carried documents and papered the place.
Oh,
they charge us for the table at the state convention.
Yeah.
And since we have 0 funds, as I
But,
was
Yes.
but
Yeah.
we do. We show up. We always show up with propaganda and we
Right.
hand it around one by one.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Even MREA would, anywhere you table is going to be a fee. That's how they make their money.
Unless, yeah, if you kind of share a booth with the Democrats or something.
So the reason that we our activities are limited and focused is because our human resources are limited.
Yeah.
And as we grow, hopefully we will be able to do more.
Yeah.
But what we always do try to keep focus on is that we're not just another environmental organization. There are plenty of environmental organizations, and myself having just been to my first Conservation Voters Lobby Day, I'm all the more impressed that there are people, doing great things. We try to keep ourselves focused. Yeah, thanks. And yeah, definitely made me want to go back again for sure. But we try and keep sight of the fact that what's different about us is we're trying to help win elections on environmental issues. Now, I could use that as a segue to item 3, but I don't want to leave item 2. If we haven't talked about everything we need to talk about. This is not our last meeting before state convention.
Right. We will have an opportunity to have a caucus meeting though at convention, correct? Like we did last
We
year.
will
Yeah,
need
okay.
to. Yeah.
All right. Just making sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just making sure.
And Dan reminds me, because he is our guru for all the rules, that we're entitled to podium time, which I'll request and prepare to take a few minutes to propagandize on our behalf from the front of the room. So apparently, the way for us to handle the resignation on the board is actually not linked specifically to the convention, although that would be a good place for us to put that call out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And also a logical time for the resignation to take effect shortly thereafter.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. No, that makes sense.
But we will remind Jay that his seat is up just as the officer seats are. going once, going twice in terms of state convention.
I think that's the last question I had.
I don't have any.
Could
Maybe.
your meeting be, your monthly meeting then be tied to that state convention rather than meeting here?
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
It's actually officially, the state convention is officially meeting.
it is exactly.
It'll be your
State-
monthly,
at state-
it'll be
at
your
state.
monthly meeting there.
It will be the most official
So
meeting we
it'll be a
have.
road trip meeting,
It'll be
Correct.
in Milwaukee.
Correct.
which gets back to my question about road trip meetings.
That would be the exception now,
That kind of gets to the sort of the
Yeah.
next point.
unless,
That's
and
what
I don't anticipate this, we added a meeting, not that it really made a big difference, but we added a meeting in the run-up to the County Chairs Association / party retreat, which was being held in our backyard in Plover.
Except
Now, since we are succeeding and everything is like right on track for our platform resolution, I don't see a need, but if there was something we were preparing in the run-up to state party convention, I could imagine us having a meeting, just prior, although since it's the very beginning of the month, it would be a May meeting anyway, at any rate.
yeah, I think there's only,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But yes, the meeting will be in Milwaukee at convention, and hopefully we'll have
Right,
great
so
attendance.
you could conceivably have some other off-site meetings,
We-
like for like Madison area,
Well, Green Bay is actually the specific spot we've
Green Bay, Madison.
Green Bay for two reasons. One, they are a sister county party to us in the sense that they also bought a building that they're proud of. They're also very strong. And somebody, maybe it's more somebody who's sitting here at this table, it wasn't me, noted that Brown County is politically pivotal. I don't know. Somebody said that. Was it?
Well, there is a tug of war there. There's no question about that. So always has been kind of.
So we might revisit the issue, but what we've done so far. Now I am going to segue into item number 3.
Yep.
Yes, we want to grow. We want to grow in numbers and activity level, and we want to grow geographically, and the two are related. And now I'm segueing to what we've said is, okay, great, we've done well with these monthly meetings and the electronic communication in between, but it's time to hit the road. We have 2 ways in which we've talked about doing that. One is being hosted at a monthly county committee meeting. As Shannon is, I'm looking at Vic now, as Shannon is coming to Lincoln County in the coming weeks.
In May.
Right.
So the third Monday.
So that's one way, and the big idea for County Chairs Association was, I went and sat there for the better part of 3 hours waiting for my turn. I couldn't, stay the whole day to get up and make a pitch to all the county chairs, invite us to come talk to you. But Ben Wickler and his slate of state party leadership candidates swallowed 45 minutes right in front of my eyes with the person hosting the county chairs having told me that, I'd get my 5 or 10 minutes.
He did that at the second CD too. Just saying.
And who's
Yeah.
Ben has moved back home to Madison from Washington. He was a very senior executive in MoveOn.org, and he's running for county state party chair.
Oh, okay.
So that's one way that we're gonna go around this, or ready to go. We're poised to go around the state, introducing ourselves, making ties to other parts of the state besides Portage, Wood, Marathon, Dane, and Lincoln counties. now green as well, and others, and starting in Milwaukee a little bit. The other is a concept that I'm running with, which is more campaign candidate focused. The two places that I want to go, and I want to get this done before state convention, is I want to go to Racine, and I want to go to Sheboygan and Racine. And this concept is, instead of a county party committee monthly meeting, it's a coffee clutch. I'm going to pretend to be Catherine Kramer. How many people here have read Politics of Resentment?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I thought the name sounded familiar, yes.
Right. And I'm in touch with Rebecca Clark over in Sheboygan, and the idea is a handful of people who have been really involved in local party, really involved in local politics, really involved in legislative races. And hey, let's get about a half dozen people together and let's talk about, what are the most impactful and smartest ways to run on environmental issues. Now, I want to go to Racine. I watched a little video from a candidate debate between Speaker Voss and his challenger. And you could see Voss deflecting and diffusing some of the water issues. Oh, CAPOS isn't really an issue here. Oh, and just a lot of kind of jumping around, throwing up chaff and flares. Right? And that's, I was saying before we started the meeting, that one of the challenges we face is that Republicans know that they don't want to, look bad on this stuff, and so they come up with cheap ways to try and look good. And that poses a challenge for this group. How are we going to deal with that challenge? That's the kind of thing that we need to figure out. And that's what, please.
This is Pat Scogan.
Yeah.
When you're up in Sheboygan, I would like to send, if it's okay with you, I'd like to send a message to Nancy and Len Utesh, who started Kewanee Cares in Kewanee County, which would hit Outagamie, Kewanee, Brown. Oh, it's that other one right there that there's a lot of water issues.
Manitowoc.
Getting down towards Sheboygan, Manitowoc. So they are farmers union members. He's run for state assembly, I think, in that area, or county supervisor. I can't remember which one it was.
The name again,
And,
please.
but he's also a farmer, and he's really up on his water knowledge. And perhaps when you're planning your Sheboygan trip,
Yes.
if we got Lynn and Nancy Utesh to get a group of folks who are involved with Kewanee Cares, who are also Dems, because you had a meeting,
Yep.
that intersection,
Yep.
of people that they're pretty sure are Dems, and also that they're good at water stuff.
Great.
Put them together, that would be a good group.
Absolutely.
That would be a really good group.
UTESH.
I believe CH.
Yeah, UT.
E.
I'm trying to remember those two T's. ESCH.
Okay, and the first names?
Nancy and Lynn, Lynn.
Great.
Kewanee Cares.
We will definitely follow up on that. Thanks. I mean, this is just the other thing that Rebecca tells
Use
me.
my name liberally.
Well, let's work on getting. Let me home in on time frame, and as soon as I do, and Rebecca, and I are coordinating on this. As soon as I home in on time frame, let's you and I get an email thread going. Okay, that'd be great.
Yep.
So I sometimes say that what we're trying to do here is we're running a collective learning exercise. We're building a network that wants to figure out how to leverage the Democrats' political advantage on environmental issues the way we figured out how to leverage Democrats' advantages on healthcare issues. And that's why we're not, just like, going along with Citizens Climate Lobby on that stuff. That's why we're not, just all excited about the Green New Deal, because we're treating this problem with respect, and we're saying this is something seriously to be figured out. And this whole idea of a introduction and listening tour, that's what that's about, is going around and saying, hey, and that's of course also why the interest in Wood, Adams, Juneau counties in the fight over groundwater there is that, right. So I'm committed to those two parts of the state. I now see, with Pat's advice and help, I'm getting a twofer over towards toward the east and a little bit to the north. I don't know. Maybe Sheboygan might be south of here. I'm not sure.
Just slightly.
Anyway.
If you go straight across Lake Winnebago, you'd be in Manitowoc.
Right.
So it's slightly south.
But
They're going to build that big bridge.
But the key point is that there are two ways to approach this. There are two ways to hit the road and kind of organize that hitting of the road. And one is county party committee meetings, and the other is these little hubs of deeply involved people.
Well, it's kind of another way to do it too. You can put your board meeting in tandem with an information meeting, where you try to get.
That was the idea. That was the idea for Green Bay.
Well, just about every meeting you could do that, and then you could have some other separate executive committee meetings as needed. But every month you could compartmentalize your board and then away from your information meeting and have them back to back, and that way you try to pull in like the local people from 350 and the local Democrats, the local whoever, just to build some more excitement and involvement and collaboration.
So let me rewind the clock just a little bit, because I think it relates. Now, a few months ago, we were saying to ourselves, hey, we need to do a strategic plan. Why did we say that to ourselves? We said that to ourselves because we were aware that this was a requirement of new caucuses. And we came up with these two strategic goals, which are great and help us orient. And we came up with these activities which seemed to fit us well. And then we realized, hey, the people who have this supposed requirement about a strategic plan are the people who've been ignoring us.
Yes.
And maybe we shouldn't do a strategic plan. And here's why.
Maybe they'll start paying attention to
No,
us.
that's not why. That's not why. That's not why. Very funny.
I know.
Why relates to what you're raising about. We decided not to do a strategic plan because we calculated, we know we need to grow. We know that once we're bigger, we'll be doing who knows what kinds of things. But we thought that those things, those other things for us to do, will become clearer to us as we succeed in strengthening this network. We decided that this idea of reaching those tentacles to more places, in significant part by just one or two at a time going to other parts of the state rather than moving whole meetings to other parts of the state, that in that process we will see what that next phase of being bigger and stronger and more developed network looks like, and will be the right ways to handle that. But that right now we're going to be focused on that growth, that extension and strengthening of the network. And oh, by the way, this platform resolution project has done a little bit of that, right? Because it has been taken up in parts of the state that are not, Portage, Dane, Wood, or Marathon County.
Well, one thing in terms of the county parties, I guess that
Mhm.
you could just try to, I guess we, takes more work, but to contact them directly. They're all looking for meeting topics, I think.
That is true.
Yeah.
I
So
would agree with you.
There is a demand to have us come to speak.
I would agree with that.
I didn't hear.
So Vic is saying that there's bound to be interest at county party committees in having speakers come because they, generally really are hungry for them. So does that mean?
I have a
Please. Pat, go ahead.
cat.
Yeah, please.
Well, I heard you mention Manitowoc, and that got real turning. We also have Michael Slattery up there, who ran the district CD as a Democrat. He was beaten in the primary by Sarah Lloyd. But he ran in 2016 for the 6th CD against Groveland. And he ran as a Dem. It's Michael Slattery. He lives in Maribel. He's a farmer out in Manitowoc County. He'd be another good contact to get an environmental group going.
That's great. And again, so there's these two models. There's these two ways of looking at this, and I've noted that. So that makes me start to think, well, how many stops could I maybe make? And maybe do a little swing, but. And I'm up for that. So, and that's the model that focuses on people, as distinct from the local party structure. And here we've identified some priorities. Should we be identifying? Because obviously there's all the counties, and we tried through the County Chairs Association meeting to connect with all the counties at once.
Right.
That didn't have a big payoff for us. I suppose we could try another email, but I don't know.
No.
Maybe it's time, similar to how we thought that Brown County was important enough to maybe go have a meeting there. Maybe it's time to say, well, here are the counties that maybe we should take the initiative and focus on and reach out to. The floor is open for that. If I was being too subtle.
So it does sort of get into the whole idea of trying to get to parts of the state that are underserved, where we don't pay a lot of attention to. And I mean, Pat has a couple of suggestions. I think these are great ideas of ways to connect with folks that are currently working on issues in their communities and are loosely affiliated with the party. For instance, we could be looking up at Ashland County, because I know there's groups of people up there working on all kinds of things, primarily related to, of course, mining, but groundwater and surface water, and air quality. Yeah, and air quality as well, because they've had a number of issues up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way to say, and it's kind of like for me in my daytime job, Marathon County is such a big county, and everybody thinks about Wausau. And then so the people over in Stratford go, yeah, well, you don't do anything for us ever. And I think that's the way the folks up in Ashland, because I talked with the Ashland city manager once, and he said, we've taken to do our own thing because nobody in Madison is paying any attention to us. So if they're feeling that disenfranchised, they're hungry to be someone to be paid attention.
Is Superior the county seat, or?
Superior is in Superior County, and Ashland is in Ashland County. And Ashland, I believe, is the county seat, yes, and Superior would be the county seat. And then there's Bayfield County as well stuck in there.
I do rules. She does geography.
Mhm.
So she's the map.
I know where all the 72 counties are. I did the 4th grade Wisconsin thing, so a long time ago.
Well, here's
Not a lot
another.
of people up there.
Here's
The
another
reality
thought.
is the people are in Madison and Milwaukee and.
Well, they are.
On the lake, Big Lake, and so just makes more sense to have a couple more meetings out in that direction.
That is true, but I get back to Donald Trump won by how many votes in Wisconsin?
22.
22,000.
Yeah, I mean, there's a question of playing to the base versus
Bringing
bringing more people into
Yeah.
the tent. Dane is now.
Go ahead, Pat.
And I think with the names I'm giving you, people that if you were doing a coffee class kind of thing, they would already be probably down preaching to the choir. But if our idea is to get the word out to the folks that we know are already strong supporters, so they can get really fired up, excited, and thinking, "Oh, the Dems are finally going to do something." Because people are light years away. I mean, Henry George founded an 85-member farmers union unit centered around the pond table on Lake Superior
Yeah.
in Ashland.
Yep.
We're not.
But I mean, if that's what you're looking for, then if you're out to recruit people who are just kind of blended, moderate, maybe they are members of the Sierra Club or something, don't know what else is happening and don't think the Dems are on their side, that's another thing.
Pat, I don't think of. I don't think.
that we are doing something.
I agree with her.
I don't think of it as preaching to the choir.
I don't either.
What I think of it
I think
as,
it is
and I don't know. I mean, I might now kind of stick with this metaphor and just beat it all to hell. But I don't know. I'm married to a vocalist. We're getting the choir on, on its A game, right? I mean, we
have to do both.
I think. So the idea of this as something that needs to be figured out says that we're underperforming on the argument. Says that we are not out there with the kind of forcefulness right? Katrina Shanklin's line: if you care about the environment, you ought to be electing Democrats. So I keep analogizing to healthcare, and the point is that we haven't figured out, as we have with healthcare, because we have figured it out with healthcare, how to do that. How to say, if you care about healthcare, you better vote for Democrats. Yes.
So the thing, I think, with going to the county party meetings,
Mhm.
what you're trying to do there, the basic thing is to explain what we're doing
Mhm.
and really build up your caucus membership or your caucus
Mhm.
activity. Because the members you're going to have for a DPW Environmental Caucus are going to come from Democratic Party.
Yes.
So there's twofold. It's a twofold thing. One, getting that. Two, from people at the meetings, see what the local issues are that they're having. And they're there.
And how's it going?
Yeah, how's it going? So it helps you from the standpoint of developing the level of your caucus, but also developing the messages. And as we talked about with healthcare, the idea is if we know what's going on with the issues in those local counties, as you go into assembly races or go into state senate races or even statewide races, you know what the issues are. You know who the incumbent is if it's a Republican district. And in rural areas, it's going to tend to be that. And then you start you can craft it to say, how do we target that person based on that? Because one of the challenges I think that does happen is that it's marrying the issue where there may be people who aren't Democrats who support us on this, but it's making the connection with those people that basically, well, the person that's in power doesn't support you on this, and making that walk.
So it's ripples in the pond,
Okay.
right?
And the local people can help you do that.
Right.
On that
So
issue.
again, it's that question of when we're bigger and stronger and have more people.
And this is a way to get bigger
Yeah,
and stronger. with more
right,
people.
right. We're starting down that path by solidifying, our having more allies, more
Right.
relationships.
It's,
Please.
so it's important, of course, to have the allies, to have the connection at the local level. But I get back to, just because a person is not a member of the Democratic Party doesn't mean they won't vote Democrat. And I think we have to start recognizing there's a big pool of people out there. Farmers Union it's a great example of, they may not be registered one way or the other, but if we can connect with people like that who have concerns about the environment, and we, again, connecting them, understanding their issues, so focusing on that, we're making some assumptions, and talking to local Dems I think are important, but I think it's also important to talk to local people.
I agree.
Yeah,
I don't think we are making assumptions, we're
Yeah.
making choices.
yeah, and I understand that,
It's
but
just the
I think you're absolutely right.
yeah,
There's a difference
It's the constraint.
We've
between
got to get Dems committed to being environmental fascists
mhm,
and following through on the platform. We've also got to get the environmental folks thinking, like you said, vote down. because
right.
That's how you get things done. Make sure those things are getting done.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and it takes a lot of manpower, and that's why building the Dem network
Right.
will help that.
Right,
Um,
that's exactly right. Right,
Because
When
we don't want
we've
another Donald Trump to win by another 19,000
now, when we've mobilized
or 22,000, excuse me.
not just a dozen or so people,
Right.
but many dozens
Right.
of people,
To-
we'll be able to do more.
And the more counties you hit, the more you have people that are involved that can hit the local farmers union. Or the other
Right.
local groups.
So here's what let's do. I think what I'm taking from this meeting and this discussion in terms of next steps is, let's us be proactive. The invitations aren't coming.
Yeah.
Right? Members of the County Chairs Association heard from us. Those who came to the meeting, got paper from us. And we haven't heard anything. So let's target some let's target some counties. And one of my follow-throughs from today's meeting will be with the sort of the board plus group, board plus Vic, plus Brittany.
And now we have a new visitor.
If you want, and that email will focus on, okay, gang, people are going to start to take assignments to invite ourselves, because it didn't work to ask to be invited, to generally ask to be invited.
Mhm.
Now we're going to, and another opportunity, so,
The CD conventions are.
and I was about to say, particularly, the third congressional district in which we live is this bizarre gerrymandered beast.
Yeah, it is a beast.
And it so happens, a couple of the places we haven't connected with are Eau Claire and La Crosse.
And so like what I could do at the 7th CD,
Mhm.
talk to Melissa about this. I have to figure out how to hold.
Well, you've got
I'll ask Melissa for 5 minutes or something to say, hey, we'd like to come to your county
Right, and
Yeah.
so,
and make that announcement there.
Pat, as we've said, you and I are going to follow through in terms of getting help from, local hosts in La Crosse with the platform resolution. We will dual purpose that email thread and that relationship building, also looking towards building that tie to the La Crosse party, which is obviously it's the seed. It's the seat of power for the third CD. Yeah. Okay.
All of that. Are you talking the whole third district TV, or are you talking across county?
Well, we're talking about targeting right now, and what I'm doing is just kind of making a connection, basically between Saturday agenda items 1 and 3.
Yeah.
Right. You and I talked about how we're going to follow through related to the platform resolution. Let's make that communication about both things, about the platform resolution and about maybe a visit.
So, and like at the 7th CD, I'm trying to remember.
Mhm.
Saturday's the main day, but Friday night, they have the,
Oh,
I don't know what they call the committee, but the committee that kind of runs the
like an administrative.
administrative committee. So I can try to get in on both. We have to go the night before anyway.
Great.
And
Great.
I'm in a better spot because my county chair is also the 7th CD chair.
That is helpful.
Yes, so I can,
I have a question.
Yeah.
that helps.
We can't go to other CDs, right? I mean, if we don't live there?
Actually, that,
Like, I can't go to the third, can I, if I live at the second?
Okay, so I'll make
I
a
know I
ruling.
wouldn't be able to vote.
I thought
Um,
you said lawyer, not judge.
Well, it's the same thing most of the time. Actually, by party constitution, all meetings of any committee or party or any arm of the Democratic Party of Wisconsin and of the National Party is absolutely open to all comers. You have absolute right to be there. You just can't raise your hand to vote.
right,
makes
exactly,
sense.
They might
exactly.
restrict certain areas during voting times, but you have a right to be on the.
Well,
board.
they might, I think they probably do it by conscience. You know,
Yeah.
if you're here in the room,
Well, you have a badge
And-
sometimes.
well, you're right.
Yeah, a lot of
but you-
that-
but you
yes,
can be in
that's
the
your
audience.
part.
Yeah, but you can absolutely be there. You can absolutely ask for time to speak. They don't have to give it to you. And, as David has found out, and as Pat and I found out at 2CD, usually someone else is going to take the time anyway before you get a chance. But,
It's been
I'm,
2 hours
I'm
now.
very fortunate in the 7th. That will help.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and Jay Jackson Jay Jackson of the 3rd is volunteering to help in the 7th.
Okay,
Yeah, so we can get up there too.
between the 2 of us, we can go up together.
So,
So I had already asked some of the different party members that I knew in, like, Richland County, Crawford, that are in the 3rd CD. I don't know if they passed county resolutions, because I was thinking we're on the list of past county, get enough counties to be able to get it on the agenda on the resolution agenda for the CDs, right?
well, that
So if that hasn't happened,
relates to
none of
the
those counties.
that relates to the question that Dan addressed much earlier in the meeting, which is no, it's okay. If things work the way they're supposed to, then, and I assume that they probably do, because every county committee is aware in this season, we certainly were here in
Right.
Portage County, right, that one of the items of business cyclically is this: what are you going to send to CD convention for resolutions, right? So those are indeed supposed to go from county committees to CD conventions. Now, we aren't leaving things to chance here in the Environmental Caucus now that we're finally doing a project that, that amounts to something. And that's why we're making sure to have coverage of our people on site, making sure to. So I guess the kids these days use the word socialize to talk about this as a verb. That our Environmental Caucus members will be at these CED conventions to socialize our resolution. I might have used advocate for them, but that's fine.
Or normalize.
And I think that's in response to your last question, Pat? Yes?
You
Okay.
answered it.
Okay.
Yep, great.
But the point, and I put this in my notes, the point is that that in this discussion of item 3, we've said to ourselves, hey, we're going to be at CD conventions where there are going to be people from some of these other key counties. We might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone and be talking about the possibility of these visits, these introduction and listening tour visits when we see them at CD conventions.
For example, I may be getting the number wrong, so don't quote me on it.
Good
But
idea.
there's 72 counties.
Right.
My understanding is the 7th has 26 of the 72. So point being is if all 26 are represented, and ideally 26 would be represented by a chair, but even if there's someone, that's a third of the counties in the state that we can get the word out to just in that one.
That is true. I am going to stick with the idea, and it can be informed by that.
That's for that announcement there.
It can be informed by that, but, you know, my minutes reflect that we're going to do some targeting, we're going to do some proactive outreach.
For sure.
And, because I mean, I've already taken on, under this alternate concept of the coffee clutches, 2 or 3, I arrived at the meeting here today having taken 2 of those on, but thank you, Pat, apparently I've got 3 or 4. And that's fine, because they're all over towards the lake. But I am going to start an email thread, and people are going to say, I will contact Brown County. I will contact Superior County. I will contact it. All right? All right.
Yeah, if it gets assigned out, then it'll make it much better.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a great meeting. I do see the clock. We are saying about these meetings that they're an hour and a half. I know we had a 5 to 10 minute late start because of my fumbling with the dial-in, but I'm noting the time so that we're winding down. Burning questions, anyone?
I will just add 2 things that I think that we should keep in mind, and we can discuss this in the future, it's not for today, but I think it's 2 things we should keep in mind about this process we're going through reaching out. One is that there's a 500-pound gorilla that nobody wants to deal with, but I'm going to push it into the room. We always talk about our opposition being on our right with the Republican Party, but we also have significant vote bleed in this state off to the left.
I agree.
In this town. In this town.
And
There were
where I come from,
Jill Stein voters in this fucking
Yep.
town.
and you know, those are those people who are very, very much environmental voters as
Yeah.
well as
I agree.
policy voters. And do we need to make at least some sort of push to try to bring some of those people back into the fold as well? Something for the future to
Yeah, I was gonna
to
say, I
Said
think
Dan
that's a-
Rower-Nutter of
Yeah.
Dane County.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding. Why do you think I'm frustrated by it,
Yeah.
right?
But I think what you say is really important. Is, again, we can have this at another time. I think that's a real deliberate strategy to have that. It's a very important conversation.
Yeah, and nobody wants to deal with it because it raises very personal issues with the
Right.
party, and
Well, it's just like folks here who also were Bernie supporters, and when it wasn't Bernie, they didn't vote at all.
yeah, and you know, we're
Yeah.
shaping up the same way for
Yes.
next year, and it's gotten me concerned very early,
Mhm.
and I think we need to address it.
I-
So that's one thing.
I completely agree.
The second thing is that we talk about hitting parties. We talk about targeting, perhaps. I still have not finished my analysis because I've been busy with other things.
Right.
But there is definitely a pattern shaping up from the last election.
He has a sizable appetite for dinner.
Oh,
That
sizable.
He's an actual scientist.
I've got 64 terabytes of hard drive at home. That's sizable appetite. It's clear that there's
60?
6. Yeah.
Wow. My hard drive is only 3.
You know, it's all about science with
Oh,
scientists.
from yeah.
There's definitely a pattern to the ballot splitters between Baldwin and Walker in this last election.
That's a good point.
I have not figured it out yet what it was that drove those people. It is starting.
But you know where they live, so to speak.
Exactly. It's starting
I have
to look like it's guns.
friends.
Guns.
It's starting to look like it's guns.
Yep.
It's looking like people are very happy putting Baldwin into D.C. because D.C. really doesn't control gun issues the way that a state does. And here in Wisconsin, they want to make certain that they don't get rid of their rifles and their handguns, okay? And so there is a pattern developing. I haven't, like I said, I've got to run the numbers, but I think that it is very
You want to
possible
pin down the
to
correlation,
target.
but you have a working hypothesis.
Yeah,
So the attorney for my department, 'cause we don't use corporation a whole lot, we use separate counsel. And he's a fiscal conservative, a Walker voter, he voted for Tammy. And I asked him why. He goes, because she gets stuff done. And he goes, I just don't know if I can vote for that Evers. So that was kind of this personal thing. He liked that Tammy got things done, and she does.
The thing I noticed
So,
about
yeah.
Tammy too is that she would come and have meet with a lot of stakeholders,
Mhm.
it seemed, on
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
things, which maybe isn't a big deal here, but I didn't see it from my senators in Texas.
well, it's
So,
interesting, you know,
yeah.
these are state, national issue
And I'm
divides.
not- yeah.
States,
Healthcare?
but you know, states work
Okay.
differently.
And
right?
Tammy
In
ran on
California,
healthcare.
there's like no expectation because it's mammoth.
We have to figure
It's
out
not
how
all
to
the same.
address that gun thing,
But I
even
mean,
though it's a red herring.
Anywhere,
You got to do it.
Expectations.
We've got to do it.
Yeah.
And for me, it's fairly easy because my response is, I'm not going to take yours because I don't want you to take mine,
What's that?
gun issue.
Okay.
And so I think we have to figure out how to get to that. And I think that's the real,
But if we can target it geographically, at least,
Mhm.
if we can at least get those counties that split their ticket heavier, those are places where we know there's people on the fence between red and blue.
wouldn't it be wonderful if we
Well,
had
some of
the
them was
financial,
Milwaukee, wasn't it?
There,
I have another
the
question
ring
on that,
counters.
on that issue.
Yeah, I mean.
yeah, Pat,
Please.
So in Farmers Union, when we started the whole thing of having statewide hydrogeological studies, CAFO moratoriums, for the DNR to actually be able to enforce things on water, we started a concerted effort to get everybody in our Farmers Union, which is Green where my boss is, and then reaching into Iowa, Grand, to go to the Conservation Congress. Go to those meetings April 8th on Mondays. Monday, April 8th, in every county, there's a DNR Conservation Congress meeting where they vote on the things. And we've got 2 resolutions in. We got through a resolution all the way to the state on the reinstating the do no harm mining
oh,
law. We also got one on doing a statewide hydrogeological study of water testing. It's going to be on the ballot. So yeah, you have to sit there for 2 hours of deciding which lake have how many fish, how many inches long, but you can also put things on the thing. And here's the deal. Here's the big deal. We got 2 Farmers Union members who ran and got on our county conservation congress board.
nice.
That's awesome.
And which means that we all go there talking about the environment as in, hey, sportsmen, want to ask me water to fish in?
Yep.
Join with us.
Yep,
You know,
You know what I'm saying? We're building
yeah.
a coalition.
We have known from early in this entire effort that that's a business we should be in.
Yeah.
And you sound like somebody that would.
Somebody has one and everybody can go.
Yep.
They've got voting
you guys
online.
belong
even
to the
too,
Farmers
on
Union?
Monday
I'm a city boy.
I'm sitting there.
You can be in the city and
yeah, I'll still be a member. That's
yeah,
very
I want to
true.
join.
I worked with the Farmers Union on a bill that
So-
we blocked.
Hold that thought, Pat. At a slightly different time in
Yeah,
the nearer rather than longer future, we'll need to get serious about exactly that.
There's one issue that kind of clarifies.
I'm just
too.
saying it's coming up before our next meeting, so if anybody was thinking about doing anything to reach out to people who might be on the fence about whether to vote Democratic or Republican,
Mhm.
that would be a good place to start building bridges is to go to that April 8th meeting in
Yeah.
the county.
Yeah.
Pat, why don't you send me the info about it, and I can circulate it to the entire caucus in our email chain.
Okay, it's just DNR Conservation Congress. Look that up, just find the whole webpage on it when it is.
Okay.
There's
What is
another
that?
elephant in the
You can
room
find the ballot.
potentially with that whole thing
Yep.
too. The Farmers Union is the ethanol issue.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, talk about elephants in the room, like you mentioned earlier.
So I'm a former Iowa caucus goer. So I know a little bit about the politics of ethanol.
there's always going to be that those things that are gonna butt up against each other. And we have to, for the betterment of the whole, we have to be able to work within those, and it's not gonna be pretty all the time, but
Yeah. We're talking too about where this group meets, and there's in adjoining state, they meet in the metro area, and then they go out a couple times out of state, but so they get fairly good attendance, and they have various issues that they deal with.
Sure.
Is it over in the cities?
Education. Yeah.
Yeah.
As opposed to this, which is meeting out and considering, and then one in Milwaukee.
yeah.
And so that's kind of a reversal of
Well,
the
and it's
population.
primarily because we started it. The majority of the members are from central
The
Wisconsin.
Progressive Caucus also started.
And if
it.
we had, and I'm ever so grateful that Dan takes the time to drive up here all the time,
From,
from
Madison.
from Sun Prairie. Yeah.
oh,
or Sun Prairie, excuse me.
I'm just thinking,
I'll be specific next time.
my mind just keeps thinking, you know, this is really great because people from the north can come here, but there are tons of people living to the south and east.
Mhm.
And that the meetings in the Minnesota were
Right.
well attended in the metro, and it was like a big effort just to have one out in the country.
Yeah.
So
So-
if and when we succeed, and this is something we've absolutely been conscious of, if and when we succeed, our geographic makeup will change,
Right.
and that will affect how we do things. So we don't know
But here's the
exactly
thing.
how we'll adjust, but
So-
we will.
I'm on WCA's Environment and Land Use Steering Committee. Where do we meet? Wisconsin Rapids or Stevens Point. I'm the
We
president of
already know the
Associated
state.
Recyclers of Wisconsin. We've got members all over the state. You know where we meet? Stevens Point, because it's smack dab in the middle of the
Hey,
state.
do you know where the
That's a
Wisconsin
good point.
Yeah.
Scholastic Athletic Association is?
Stevens
It's in
Point.
Stevens Point.
Yeah.
But the reality of it, though, is that if you're gonna get a volunteer to come who's not paid or whatever, they're gonna think twice, 3 times, 4 times before they drive all the way here.
Well, and I wouldn't, the reverse is true as well, because I would think twice about taking, again, I'm thankful that Dan does this, but I would think twice. I probably wouldn't be involved.
Sure.
Well,
So-
the central part is actually really important. When I was in Texas, everything was in Austin. Now it is the capital, so that helps.
Yeah.
And those factors didn't hurt, but it wasn't the biggest city. It's large, it's growing fast,
Mhm.
but everything is, and for me, that was a challenge because it was a 5-hour drive every time.
Yeah, Houston, Austin is not far.
I was further than that even.
Oh,
my
I-
goodness.
I'm gonna, I think, gavel us out for
Yeah.
our business.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Hi,
as
Dave.
always.
I've got to get going.
Yep.
Yep, thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Everybody, great meeting.
Who should I vote for April 2nd?